I have a blog called calvinismisthegospel.com. We chose that name for the sole purpose of being provocative, and it worked. So just what is Calvinism? Hello, I'm Jerry Johnson, and I welcome you to this edition of Against the World.
This segment of Against the World is brought to you by Patriot Newswire. Please visit their website at www.patriot-newswire.com. And by the Puritan Hard Drive. Former Roman Catholic priest Richard Bennett writes, "The Puritan Hard Drive has been such a superb blessing to me personally and for my ministry, that I lack words to adequately praise the Lord." To order the Puritan Hard Drive, go to www.puritandownloads.com.
Paraphrasing the words of Dr. Archibald Alexander Hodge, Calvinism is a term used to designate not the opinions of an individual, but a mode of religious thought or system of religious doctrines of which the persons whose name it bears was an eminent expounder. There have been from the beginning only three generically distinct systems of doctrine or modes of conceiving and adjusting the facts and principles understood to be revealed in the Scriptures. The Pelagian view, which denies the guilt and corruption and moral impotence of man and makes man independent of the supernatural assistance of God. At the opposite pole is the Calvinistic, which emphasizes the guilt and moral impotence of man, exalts the justice and sovereignty of God, and refers salvation absolutely to the undeserved favor and new creative energy of God. Between these two come the manifold and elastic system of compromise, once known as semi-Pelagianism, but has since the 16th century become known as Arminianism. Now, this system admits a man's original corruption, but it denies the full effect of the fall and man's ultimate guilt. Arminianism teaches that God and man work together to bring about the latter's salvation. It's what we call synergism. In this scheme, man is compensated or paid with justification simply for making a right choice. We have here in succinct form an accurate definition of the two systems of theology which are in active operation today. And basically, my friends, what I'm saying is this reduces itself down to two: Calvinism and Arminianism. Now, the former takes its name from John Calvin, a Frenchman born in 1519, and the latter takes its name from James Herman, or in the Latin, Jacobus Arminius, a Dutchman who was born in 1560. Now, please understand that these men did not originate the systems of doctrine which bear their names, but only expounded them more fully and developed them into a more perfect form. The same views were maintained at least as early as the 4th century, when Augustine of Hippo and Pelagius stood in much the same attitude to each other as Calvin and Arminius did in the 16th century. Hence, Calvinism is frequently and correctly called Augustinianism, and Arminianism semi-Pelagianism. According to Calvinism, the sinner seeks salvation by the strength of his belief given to him by the grace of God. On the other hand, Arminianism teaches that man seeks salvation by the fullness of his contribution. This is the first great practical divergence of the two creeds. It is also observable that the Church of Rome, whose worship is addressed mainly to the senses, and which delights in splendid cathedrals and pompous ceremonies, has always displayed against Calvinists an animosity far greater than she has done against any other Protestant sect. The historian George Bancroft, who was himself a Calvinist, observed that a richly endowed church, and I want you to read into that, the Laodicean church, always leads to Arminianism and justification by works. On the other hand, it is the doctrine of original sin and total depravity, one which says man is not only poor, but bankrupt, dead in sin, at war with God, and an enemy of God, in bondage to his sinful nature, that agrees with the biblical data. To help you better understand, allow me to draw the following analogy. Arminianism has a view of man, sin, and the gospel that would work itself out this way. Man has fallen into a pool of sin, and he's drowning. The lifesaver, the thing that can save the man, is the gospel. It is thrown to the drowning man by an evangelist or a preacher, and the man who's drowning must make a choice of whether or not to grab onto the gospel, the lifesaver, and be saved, or continue to try to keep his head above water by his own efforts. Now, Calvinism, on the other hand, agrees that fallen man is in a pool of sin. But Calvinists do not believe that the sinner is drowning. He believes the sinner has already drowned. He is dead to the things of God. Please, beloved, read Romans chapter 3. It is what I call the anatomy of fallen sinful man. You can speak to a dead man all day and all night. You know what he will do? Nothing. Unless the dead man is first made alive by the resurrection power of Jesus Christ, nothing will happen. I beg you in the name of Christ again to think well upon this. Arminianism believes man is drowning. Calvinists believe that man has already drowned, therefore he is dead. And I ask you, which one lines up better with the biblical data? Until next week, this is Jerry Johnson standing contra mundum against the world.